So I am here today to talk about some more books that I have read. And I did want to mention before I keep going that I link the books that I talk about down below with like an affiliate link at Book Depository. However, I encourage you to purchase from indie bookstores. I'm just doing that because, you know, why not? But I would prefer it if you bought these books from indie sellers. And if it is an indie press specifically, I am going to probably try to link them below so that you can purchase directly from the indie seller or like the indie, I guess not indie press. Indie has turned into meaning like independently published, like a indie seller as opposed to small publisher. So I guess what I mean is small presses. If it's a small press book, I'm going to link the press below. If not, I'm going to link a Book Depository. I'm also going to maybe like start linking IndieBound. I think it would probably only work for the US, but you put in the name of the book and then it shows, I think, like what indie book, and you put in your zip code and any kind of independent bookstore, maybe it like pops up or you can purchase from indie bookstores. Anyways, I'm going to talk about the books now, but I just wanted to mention that at the beginning, mostly because this first one is a coffee house press book, and that is Little Boxes, 12 Writers on Television, a very special episode about what it means to have that blue glow as part of your cultural DNA, comedy, drama, serial, daytime. So this is a collection edited by Caroline Casey, and it is 12 Writers on Television. I've talked about this already a little bit, like in, weekly wrap ups and stuff, but I really, really enjoyed this. I gave this 3.5 stars. I was a little nervous just because there are quite a few shows that I have not watched: Northern Exposure, The Cosby Show, Days of Our Lives, My So-Called Life, Anne of Green Gables, Emmanuel, and Punky Brewster. Basically, I'd only watched a few of the shows that are mentioned, and so I was kind of curious how reading an essay collection where people have an essay about a specific show that I haven't watched, like how I was going to kind of react to that. And I will say, I thought that was just totally fine. I don't think that it took away from my appreciation of these essays, because each essay, it's not about the show, it's about the person's relationship to the show and what kind of meaning it had for them. And I'm very much about that kind of thing. I really enjoy reading about people's relationships to others, and in this case it just happens to be the television show as opposed to an actual human being. And I think it's also really nice because there's a lot of like queer representation and a lot of people of color writing, talking about you know uh, how these specific people kind of like not represented them, but how they related to these characters that they kind of saw themselves in a little bit. The Cosby Show, and then My So-Called Life too. The author of that one is called Justin Torres. That one was so heartbreaking. I'd never seen My So-Called Life, and so I kind of like Googled a little bit. I know it was a big show, and I do want to go back and watch it. It makes me laugh because you can see Jared Leto, I think, is the guy that's in it. But anyways, his essay is called Supportive Acts, and it's about Ricky Vasquez and his kind of relationship to this guy who I think is gay. I'm pretty sure, and it was like a really, really meaningful one. The Daria one I thought was really, really meaningful too. She talks a lot about, I being black, and specifically too talking about, you know, um, like Obama's presidency and election day in 2016 and all of this stuff. And, she touches on all of the characters, but she also talks about, oh gosh, I don't even remember what her name is. I didn't watch Daria that much. What is her name? Jody. She talks about Jody a lot. And it was all really, really great. And so she does get like quite political in that essay specifically, and I just think it was really great. Her name, by the way, is Danielle Evans, the author of that Daria piece. And I would so recommend this. I will say that there's one really, really graphic one, the one on Emmanuel. What is the name of that one? um An Explanation of Music by T. Clutch Fleischman. Emmanuel, I guess, is like a soft core porn series that this person watched, and they end up talking quite in graphic detail about some sexual stuff. So if you're not into that, just FYI. But in general, I really would recommend this a lot. I enjoyed it. The next thing that I read was another essay collection, and this is I'm sorry, A Man Without a Country by Kurt Vonnegut. You know, I love Kurt Vonnegut so much. I feel like a lot of people don't talk about him, and I don't understand why. I feel like everyone's like, oh yeah, Slaughterhouse-Five, which is a fine book. I didn't love it. I don't think I should probably reread it because I'm sure I would have more of an appreciation for it now. But he is so great. I'm going to read a little bit that I have flagged, but in general, this is just an essay collection that I think is really, really wonderful. And he talks about a lot of stuff. He is definitely like very pro environment. And I don't know, I think that he is a wonderful, wonderful thinker, and that his writing style is so easy to get into. So you get a lot of like meaningful content without having to like tax yourself mentally too much. He's a very, very easy person to read. And I don't think that he gets enough credit. I'm going to read just this one little bit, forgive me. In case you haven't noticed, as the result of a shamelessly rigged election in Florida in which thousands of African Americans were arbitrarily disenfranchised, we now present ourselves to the rest of the world as proud, grinning, jut-jawed, pitiless war lovers with appallingly powerful weaponry who stand unopposed. In case you haven't noticed, we are now as feared and hated all over the world as the Nazis once were, and with good reason. In case you haven't noticed, our unelected leaders have dehumanized millions and millions of human beings simply because of their religion and race. We wound them and kill them and torture them and imprison them all we want. Piece of cake. In case you haven't noticed, we also dehumanize our own soldiers, not because of their religion or race, but because of their low social class. Send them anywhere. Make them do anything. Piece of cake. The O'Reilly factor. So I'm a man without a country except for the librarians in a Chicago paper called In These Times. Before we attacked Iraq, the majestic New York Times guaranteed that there were weapons of mass destruction there. Anyways, it keeps going, but he's, obviously, the type of person that I really like based on that little bit. So, yeah, I think he's really, really meaningful, and I just adore him very much. Yeah, he has a lot of things to say about our political, like societal. I'm very curious if he were still alive, what he would be saying about our political system at the moment, basically. But unfortunately, he has passed. All right, so the next thing that I read was Stay Out of the Basements. Stay Out of the Basement. Sorry, I cannot talk. Which is the second Goosebumps book by R.L. Stine. This was super fun again. It's, a brother, sister, dad was fired. Now he's spending a lot of time in the basement. Mom goes away on a trip, so they're stuck with him, and things get wild. And I did think it was really fun. I gave this 3 stars. Oh, by the way, I gave this 5 out of 5 stars, in case you're wondering. But this was super fun. The next thing that I read was Cosmopolitan by Akhil Sharma. She just keeps doing that. Everything's normal. This was also really great. I gave this 4.5 stars. I think up until this time, this was my favorite of the favorite, but I have since read something that I enjoy a little bit more. Oh boy, this is a sad, sad story. So, I guess maybe it doesn't end that sadly, but kind of. So, our main character's name is Gopal Moria, and his wife moved back to India and has left him, and so he's all by himself. And he has this neighbor woman that he sees and is intrigued by, and is attracted to, and so it's kind of him trying to get in with her. and her kind of response. I felt a lot of like melancholy while reading this. It's really well written, but I definitely felt very sad, mostly because like I felt really bad for this poor man that's like been abandoned and all by himself. But then like I can sense his like craving of this woman, and when she kind of is not like, wanting to be with him so much. Like I feel like this desperation from Gopal that I find, you know, sad, and like I feel like I pity him almost, which is not like a good feeling. I don't like that. Um, and I get like a little bit irritated too because he's kind of, stalking this woman and is like a little, not stalking, that's such an exaggeration, but he's a little bit too offended or upset, I guess, that he isn't the with her, like when she chooses to not be with him. And I don't know, maybe some like past experiences with men that I've had. I found that to be like kind of irritating. So I felt really bad for him, but I was also mad at him at the same time. It was kind of confusing internally. In general, though, I like really really liked this. Mostly because of that. I really like it when you feel complex things towards complex characters. So I really liked that. And then the next one that I read was Mrs. Fox by Sarah Hall. This one I gave 3.5 stars. It was pretty good. I don't remember a ton of it, but it definitely has that like crisp, outdoorsy fairy tale type vibe, if that makes any sense. And this is, a story of a woman turning into a fox, and it's from her husband's perspective. And again, loss. That's so interesting that I feel like a lot of these Faber and Faber ones have to do with that, which is kind of interesting. I forget those other ones, but anyways, yeah. So yeah, this one was good. I wouldn't like super recommend. It definitely feels like fairy tale esque. Like it's got that, you know. I think of like snowy outdoors, fairy tale kind of vibe to it. So yes, those are some more books that I have read. Sorry if that was incoherent. And again, I'll link everything below, and let me know if you've read any of these and if you have any opinions. Especially if you've read Little Boxes. Probably not. I feel like I haven't seen anyone on here talking about that, but let me know. I'll talk to you later.